Good evening, everyone. I'll call this Committee of Adjustment hearing to order. I'm just going to go through the committee's protocols for tonight's hearing. Tonight we have 4 different properties with 7 applications. One has multiples that we'll be hearing tonight. The following will be kind of a generality of tonight's hearing. Just a couple of things before we get started. A couple housekeeping rules. If anyone has cell phones, if you could please place them on mute or silent mode or turn them off. That would be great. If anyone is coming forward to address the committee from the public or otherwise, if asking questions, please address the questions through the chair, not directly to the person that you're asking the question of. First order of business will be to ask committee members if they have any conflicts of interest with any of the applications this evening. Following that, there'll be a request for any deferrals or withdrawals of applications. Are all the applicants in attendance? Okay. And then following that, committee members will then have an opportunity to ask the applicant any questions that they might have, followed by members of the public who wish to speak to an application. Members of the public wishing to speak to an application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record. There's a podium on my right, your left. Try to limit their comments to 10 minutes and must ask all questions or comments that they have that are pertinent to the application in that time frame. Persons making a presentation may not necessarily be able to return again to speak to the same application. And I use applications broadly. It should be really to the property if there's multiples. Following all comments, the applicant will be afforded some closing comments if desired. The committee will then present a decision in the form of a motion. Motion will be discussed and voted upon. If a vote is tied, a motion will be defeated and a new motion will be made. When motions are defeated, new motions will be made until a decision has been reached. Notice of decision will only be provided to those persons that leave their name and address in writing with the Secretary Treasurer. There's a sign-in page at the back of the room for that purpose. And anyone that's watching online, I'm assuming we're going live tonight, or if you're watching a little bit afterwards, you can email our Secretary Treasurer at Taya, T-A-Y-A, period, T-A-R-A-B-A, at portcolborne.ca, or you can call and leave a message at 905-228-8124 immediately following the hearing to leave a message requesting the same. Those are the protocols for this evening. I'll ask if there's any conflicts of interest with any applications this evening. Eric?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have indirect pecuniary interest on item 6.2, which are applications A13-24-PC, A14-24-PC, A15-24-PC, A16-24-PC regarding 19 Lakeshore Road West, as I am employed by the agent of the applicant.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, not seeing any. I will advise people that in application, the 6.2 on our agenda, which is 19 Lakeshore Road, that one is not a new hearing. That is just a continuation of a hearing that we started last month. So that one will just continue on where we left off from last month. So with that, is there any deferrals or requests for deferrals this evening? Not seeing any. So with that, Madam Secretary, the first application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the agenda tonight, we have 7 minor variance applications. Notice of the applications was circulated to the public on June 26th. The required agencies received notice of the applications on June 11th. A recommendation report for each application was prepared by planning staff and made publicly available on July 5th, with an addendum posted on July 10th. All correspondence received by July 5th were addressed in the recommendation reports. Those interested can view the recommendation reports online on the city's website or in person at City Hall. Those interested may also contact planning staff in person, by email, or over the phone to obtain a copy of the reports. Accommodations for alternative methods of viewing or obtaining the recommendation reports are available upon request. Please note, the zoning bylaw currently in effect is City Port Colborne Zoning Bylaw 6575/30/18 as amended, which will henceforth be referred to as the zoning bylaw. Our first application tonight is minor variance application A1724PC for the lands municipally known as 4871 Mapleview Crescent in the rural residential zone as established in the zoning bylaw. The agent Brianna I'm so sorry. Bedorkos, on behalf of the owners Ed Diaz and Mary Diaz, is requesting relief for the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit the construction of a new single detached dwelling, notwithstanding the following: that a maximum lot coverage of 20% be permitted where maximum 50% is required, and that a front yard setback of 6.67 meters be permitted where a minimum of 10 meters is required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommends that application A1724PC be granted. As the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the development of the site, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. That concludes correspondence for this application.
Thank you. Is the applicant or the agent for the applicant here this evening? You can go to the podium on the right. There should be a red button in the middle of that gray bar on the table. That's it. And
Hi.
the floor is yours.
I have no additional comments. It's pretty straightforward. We're just asking for a little bit of relief from the lot coverage. There is 2 sheds on there that they would like to keep just for storage, and then the front yard setback, just so that they can accommodate a couple more porches.
All right. Do any members have any questions of the applicant? The only question I have, the existing dwelling that's there, I'm assuming is going to be torn down?
Yes, we're going to demolish
Okay.
it.
And the garage that's in the far, if you're looking at the front, in the
That
back
was
left?
just built last year. We're going to
Okay.
keep that, yes.
Very good. No one's got anything else? Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. Any other questions or comments? Angie?
No, I was just going to move it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, for application A1724-PC, legally known as Lot 32 on Plan 68, New Plan 827, located in rural residential zone, that the minor variance application A1724-PC be granted for the following reasons: that the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the development of the site, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purposes of the zoning bylaw, and it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan.
Thank you. Seconder, Eric? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried.
Thank you.
There is a 20-day waiting period following that. Thank you. Madam Secretary, the next application, please.
Our second application tonight is minor variance application A1824PC for the lands municipally known as 47 Lewis Street in the 3rd Density Residential Zone as established in the zoning bylaw. The agent Ross Nadi, on behalf of the owners Said Zabiullah Nadi and Nahid Nadi, is requesting relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw to permit tandem parking where it would not otherwise be permitted, notwithstanding the following: that tandem parking be permitted for a fourplex where ingress and egress parking are required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommends application A1724PC be granted. As the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate for the development of the site, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. That concludes correspondence for this application.
Thank you. Is the agent or the applicant here this evening?
They are online.
Oh.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Ross and I.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
No.
Okay. Does any members have any questions? Eric?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have a question about, and this is probably to staff. It seems very specific that fourplexes are not considered in tandem parking, but the other, like a triplex, is tandem parking. Through you, it seems very specific as to that being there, and it was purposeful. I'm wondering if you could maybe elaborate on why that is and as to why that is the requirement.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The zoning bylaw was passed back in 2018, so it was, different staff that had written that at that time. But just, speaking from kind of common sense, I think the general intent of that provision is to prevent having a driveway where, you know, you have like 5 cars in a row that throughout the day need to kind of coordinate who leaves when, and you know, in essence, it's to avoid kind of an influx of additional street parking. So having that tandem parking allowed up to a triplex ensures that you're not having too many cars parking in tandem in one driveway, and tries to limit the amount of street parking that is required from that situation.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, having a 4th car in tandem parking seems like it could have quite an impact on the residents. If you're parked in that deepest spot, how are they supposed to get out? Are they supposed to go and knock on every door and ask everyone to move their vehicle?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is also something that we were kind of considering when, you know, looking at this application. So at this moment, the property is used as a triplex. Tandem parking is all that's allowed there. So they have currently 3 cars parking in a row in their driveway. So in essence, all this application is asking for is 1 additional car, which, you know, as mentioned, the idea is to try to limit the amount of street parking. But, you know, in this situation, to allow more housing to kind of go up there in that neighborhood, we do think that it is appropriate, especially after having consulted bylaw. Since this is a request for a variance in the parking provisions, we wanted to reach out straight to the people who enforce the parking bylaws that we have in effect. And bylaw had no objections. Specifically, bylaw sent over an email saying that since 2020, they've only issued 4 tickets on Lewis, and 3 of those tickets were interference with snow removal. 1 of them was parking over 12 hours, and since that time, bylaw has actually amended the parking bylaw to allow up to 24 hours. So basically, you're allowed street parking at all times. So that isn't really a concern anymore.
Anyone else got any questions? Angie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just maybe I could elaborate further on Member Beauregard's concerns. That property has been used as a triplex and sometimes a fourplex for more than 30 years. And I can tell you personally that I've never seen a parking problem, although I can see why there should be one, but there just hasn't been. It's simple as that. They will, on occasion, they'll be parking out front of the house, but for the most part, it's worked. I just have to say that. I've not ever known it to be restricted to renters that don't have a car. But it's always worked.
Anyone else? If I might, to the agent for the applicant, the existing garage that's there now, is that currently being used?
So as of right now, although we have a parking spot in the garage and we can fit 3 vehicles on the driveway lane, there is 0 cars there. None of the tenants even own a vehicle at this point in time. And so what we were looking to do is add additional units, make it a 4-plex. And as such, it was requested to go through the committee of adjustment to get a 4th parking tandem. So in terms of your question, if there's going to be an issue with tenants or anything like that, as of right now, nobody has a vehicle. So there's absolutely no issues with them whatsoever.
Okay, but as far as the garage goes right now, is that?
And the garage is empty. And the garage is empty as well. Yeah, it's empty as well. Yeah.
And the plan is to leave the garage there, or are you going to renovate the garage as well?
No, the garage will stay as is.
Okay, and if I might, so the current configuration of the property, you're going to be turning it into a 4-plex. Will you be able to do those renovations with the current tenants in place, or do you have current vacancies that allows you to do the renovations? Because based on the sketches and drawings that you provided, it looks like you're going to renovate pretty much all floors. Is that a fair statement?
No. So it's just the 1 unit at the back that's going to be essentially converted into a 4th unit. The remaining units are, we're leaving it as is. It's already tenanted and they are up to code. So the sketch that was requested was to provide of, what's existing and what we're looking to basically implement. So it's just that studio or the bachelor unit, you can see the back. If you're looking at the map, that's the unit we're looking to get converted to the fourth unit. That'll be the fourth unit.
Okay, I do see that now looking at your sketches. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I don't have it. Eric?
Through Mr. Chair to the applicant, are the parking stalls or parking locations assigned to the units?
No. As I mentioned, currently no tenant even has a vehicle, and it's not assigned.
Okay. I'm good.
All right. If there's no other questions, is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. Does the applicant have any other questions or comments they'd like to add at this time?
No, thank you.
Very good. A committee member have a recommendation? Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to application A1824-PC, legally known as Part Lot 20 on Plan 283, new Plan 849, in the third density residential zone municipally known as 47 Lewis Street. The minor variance application A1824-PC be granted for the following reasons. The application is minor in nature. 2, it is appropriate for the development of the site. 3, it is desirable in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. 4, it is desirable in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan.
Thank you. Seconder to that, Angie? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Secretary, the next application, please.
Our next application is minor variance application A1124PC for the lands municipally known as a vacant lot on Humboldt Parkway in the second density residential zone as established in the zoning bylaw. The agent Timothy Sink, on behalf of the owner Jonathan Sink, is requesting relief for the provisions in the zoning bylaw to permit the creation of a new detached dwelling notwithstanding the following. The municipal drain setback of 8 meters be permitted, whereas a minimum of 10 meters is required. That the maximum parking area width of 60% of the lot frontage be permitted, whereas a maximum of 50% is required. And the maximum floor area of the accessory dwelling unit be 45% permitted, where a maximum of 40% is required. Given the information in the recommendation report, planning staff recommends application A1124PC be granted as the application is minor in nature, it is appropriate in development of the site, is desirable in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is desirable in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, subject to the following condition that a stage 1 ARC assessment be completed by a licensed archaeologist for the property with an acknowledgement letter provided from the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism. That concludes the correspondence for this application.
Thank you. Is the agent or the applicant here this evening? They online too?
He's online.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we no further comments on this. I believe planning staff covered it all. If there's any questions for me, just let me know.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments for the applicant? I don't necessarily have a question or comment for the applicant. I do want to clarify that the original staff report last month, has that been corrected online? Because it still referenced, the one that's online still references the wrong lots.
Through you, Mr. Chair. There was an addendum that was posted today, so the addendum package includes the updated report. I believe the one from before was, the previous months.
Is the addenda online?
Yes, yep.
Because I'm looking right now, I don't.
It is on the committees, boards, and council calendar. If you scroll down to tonight's meeting on July 10th, it's just under, there's agenda HTML, agenda PDF, cover page, and addendum is just under that.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. Oh, now I see it. Okay. Very good. Thank you. With that, is there no other questions or comments? Is there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application? Ma'am, if you can please come forward to the podium on your left. There's a little red button in the middle, just your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. We are Bob and Darlene Newstead. We live at 134 Wellington Street. We are budding property owners to this property. We've lived there for 10 years, 30 years in Port Colborne. We just have a few concerns. One is the parking. Right now, there is a 2-story house on this property, and there's 3 cars and a trailer that park out front. So with 3 more units added to a little tiny piece of property, I don't know where everyone's going to park. It just doesn't even make sense. And they park the opposite ways than they should be. That's a big thing here in Port Colborne. I don't know if that's allowed or what, but it seems to be happening. We just feel that it's a very small piece of property and a very large development on a municipal drain. We had to go through very big hoops just to put a pool in, and our property isn't even on the drain line. We just feel that it's an overbuilding on a small piece of property. I don't see anything in neighborhoods that are that big. And I just want to clarify, is this dwelling going to be 3 units? I hear that it's called an accessory unit dwelling. If you look that up, that's 3-unit townhouse. Is that correct?
I can certainly ask the agent or the applicant for the agent that. To my knowledge, it's 2 units. It's
Okay.
the primary 6.
So 2 units is going to go on this property?
From my understanding, that's what they're asking about, an accessory dwelling unit.
I have brought pictures of the parking that goes on already, and just for the house, and I just don't know how 2 more units of parking is going to be. Most people have more cars than 1. I don't have any children. It's just me and my husband, and we have 2 cars. We actually have 4 cars, but anyway, the parking is just already crazy, and always has been, and I just don't know how 2 more units is going to affect that. And for the little tiny piece of property, it looks like maybe enough property for a double car garage and a nice driveway, not 2 more units. It's just a small unit, a small property, and it seems like a very overbuilt. And that's pretty much all I got to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Justin LePage. I am actually the resident that lives at 143 Humboldt Parkway, which is the unit that got split in half. So I do have concerns about how close it is going to be to my house. There is actually a tree on the property that I'm curious about that is probably, well, hundreds of years old. So I'm curious on what the plans for that tree is. And then how close is it going to be to my house? I have quite a bit of landscaping right beside my house that I would actually have to probably tear up and redo my whole landscaping because it's going to be butted right up against my house. And like mentioned, it's a very small property that they're trying to build 2 units on, which is, I don't agree with. I do have concerns with the city lot that's beside it because what I understand is there's the plumbing there for the city, so how is that going to affect that, and how will it affect my house? And is it going to be within the bylaw limits of regarding on how close it is to my unit? And again, with the parking too, like we are the ones with the 3 vehicles and the trailer, and you know, we already have trouble parking as it is, and we have new neighbors that just moved in on the other side of the city lot, which also have multi-vehicles. So it's just a lot of concerns there. Not sure if there's anything else I'm forgetting, but
If I might, are you currently renting or you didn't?
No, I own.
You own
Yeah.
the property, okay.
I own the property. It was severed in half when I bought it, and
Gotcha.
they were trying to.
I asked if
Okay.
it was severed in half, and I was told it was never severed.
Yeah, it was definitely severed in
So-
half.
And I was told
So,
it wasn't.
so I don't want to get into a back and forth, but thank
Yeah.
you for your
Sorry,
comments.
I don't.
That's okay. Is there anything else?
Forgetting anything? Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I guess, if I might, to your one point about setbacks, where the severance is taking place, I believe that was per the original plan of subdivision. So there is a 1 meter setback from, it looks like there's a chimney that outcrops on the side of your property to the south side. There's a 1 meter setback to the property line from there is what I believe the minimum requirement is. So the proposed building envelope, we don't necessarily have a proposal of what they're going to build, just the envelope is within the other boundaries within that property as it's laid out. So if they wanted to vary from those, then they'd need to come back again for a variance for those items. But that's not currently being proposed, other than because of the building envelope, they've asked to go back farther onto the property because of that pipe that runs through there. So that's why the variance is there. Okay? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application this evening? Not seeing any. Any other questions or comments by the committee members? Not seeing. If I might, I believe, and I'll pose this to the agent or the applicant. The proposed width of the driveway, is that to accommodate 2 vehicles in the front as opposed to a single vehicle in the front?
Yes, that is correct. That is the reason we are asking for the 8 meter setback from the municipal drain versus the 10 meters, is to help us try and accommodate a second parking space in the front, as well as the variance to allow slight percentage change in the maximum width of parking in the front yard. That's to try and accommodate a second space.
And to the question of the first public member about the proposed dwelling, am I correct in assuming that there's going to be a principal residence plus an accessory dwelling unit on this property is what you're proposing?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for reminding me about that. What we're proposing is a raised bungalow with a upper unit and a lower unit. So no massive 3-story dwelling with 3 units, just a smaller, about 1,000 square foot raised bungalow with a basement apartment.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Any questions? No one else from the public who wishes to speak to this? So with that, I'll ask for a recommendation. Dave?
Application A11-24-PC, lands legally known as Lot 255 on Plan 8, New Plan 836, located in the second density residential R2 zone. That minor variance application A11-24-PC be granted for the following reasons. 1, the application is minor in nature. 2, it is appropriate for the development of the site. 3, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. 4, it is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan, subject to the following condition. 1, a stage 1 archaeological assessment be completed by a licensed archaeologist for the property, with an acknowledgement letter provided from the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder to that? Angie? Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll rehear or continue our hearing on application A13, 14, 15, and 16-24-PC for 19 Lakeshore Road. So we've already been through all the public feedback and comments. We adjourned our last meeting to ask staff to receive or contact the city solicitor to garner some comments. Tay is going to read out those comments. It was relatively brief with regards to the solicitor's comments, and then we can go for any questions and follow up after that. You can go just right to the comment.
Since the prior meeting for this application, staff have consulted with the city solicitor and have advised that the committee hear and decide on the minor variance applications noted above in the normal course. The consent applications for 19 Lakeshore Road West are no longer before the committee, and therefore the committee has no jurisdiction to deal with anything in regard to the consent applications B19 23PC, B20 23PC, and B21 23PC. Any comments about the procedure and/or the appeals or the consent files are not relevant to the committee's decisions on the minor variance applications.
Thank you. So just going to that point, I think we kind of touched on that a little bit last time about these particular applications, that we should be looking at them just as these and on their merits. So with that, I'll open the floor to any further questions or comments of committee members. Gary?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Accept the opinion as read out. In terms of having a question myself, I don't on the process now of the previous consent application. Having said that, it was brought out by members of the public that I think we were quite right in the meeting about we weren't going to bring the solicitor here to have a back and forth on that. But I think for the record, it would be appropriate, because it was asked by a member of the gallery, if there are any questions to that. Again, it's not challenging the consent applications as said, and it is clear our lawyer has made it, it's not the subject of this evening. But I do think it would be appropriate for the record to just have a comment from those that raised it. And I believe that would be probably the solicitor in the room, Julian Renault.
I guess to your point, we're now going to break protocol by allowing the public to speak again. That particular member of the public had 20 minutes last meeting because we extended his time. So he had more than ample time to discuss his concerns. And the purpose or the reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the one that asked for it, was to get an opinion on what he proceeded to do or what he's proposing to do, which we've now gotten confirmation that we shouldn't even be entertaining that, and we should be just discussing the matter in front of us with regards to these 4 lots being a little bit undersized versus the zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think in practically 3/4 of what you said, I'd be in full agreement. I just never think it's inappropriate to have a member of the public speak, particularly in the case when it was the member of the public that caused the reason for the delay and for the answer. I'm not looking to debate this, but for my own edification, I'd like to hear what the comment was now that there's our solicitor's comment. So for me, it's just about the openness and transparency of the process, given that that we now have an opinion. I don't think it's inappropriate to have a comment to that, just for our own edification. I'll deal with that as the pleasure of the committee, though.
Angie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'm just a little bit confused about exactly what it is that we're asking for a comment on. Is it a comment on the solicitor's advice? Because I don't know that there's anything else to comment on at this point. So that's what I'm wondering. What the solicitor told us was pretty clear. So is this a comment on the solicitor's advice so that we can have it in the record and it's there? Or what exactly is it? Because I'm not against it. I just want to know, just to be clear.
Thank you, Member Demery. I think it's that and my desire to you don't know what you don't know. So I don't know what the solicitor is going to say, but I think it's appropriate. I mean, the member of the public who raised this maybe say, their answer may be, I'm fine with that, I may not agree with it. It may not, but I'll never know unless we allow him the opportunity to open his mouth.
I guess to that point is, does it matter? The question raised was him filing an appeal regarding the previous one, and he was asked us to adjourn or delay this decision so he can file his appeal of the previous one, which at this point is irrelevant. If he's going to file his appeal or take it to court, do whatever you want, fill your boots. It's got nothing to do with this particular application.
Thank you again through you, Mr. Chair. Okay, first of all, I get where you're coming from, Gary. No issue there. I understand that. And having a comment regarding our solicitor's comment, our solicitor's advice is not a bad thing, not at all. To have it in the record, that's fine. My real problem comes in the fact that there's more than one person wanting to have something to say tonight, and if we say yes to one, we need to say yes to all. You can't just say only one person gets to speak. So which way does it go? That's what I want to know. I'm not against any of it, just want to know.
I think to be clear on that, we're both on the same side. I think what I'm looking for is we got advice. I'd like to know what the person who raised this thinks of that advice for the record. But there is no more discussion on this matter because, in my view, that was perfectly clear by the solicitor's advice. If the person wants to comment or not, if it's not on this, then I think he should sit down and come to the matter in front of us tonight.
Thank you. If I could, that does clarify it. So having this person stand up and speak to our solicitor's advice says that is all that we're being asked. We're asking for. We're not asking for other people to join in or any comments that had been solicited, that had been submitted, right? Right. Okay, because that keeps it clean and clear. All right, that would be good.
So for the record, you're going to motion that we open the floor up to this particular individual again to speak to our lawyer's advice because he's a lawyer, so now he's going to contradict our lawyer. I don't understand what we gain by...
Not because he's a lawyer.
But I don't understand what we gain by him speaking again to it. What are we going to gain?
I don't know. That's why I want to listen.
But he's given his opportunity to speak, and he went on about the previous application for 10 minutes, and then we gave him an extra 10 minutes to speak to this application, and he went on again on the same topic. He said what he wanted to say about the variance, and he's had his opportunity to speak, just like the rest of the public.
In all fairness, Mr. Chair, I'm asking for his comment on the solicitor's advice, and then to move forward, as I've said to Member Desmarais. Whether he has 10 minutes or 2 minutes on this new one is at the call of the chair, but I'm just asking that the member of the public who asked for this is now received that advice. I'd like to hear his comment. I don't know how to make it simpler than that.
Angie?
Thank you again through you, Mr. Chair. I do understand where Member Bruno's coming from it, and allowing a comment to be made as far as registering official comment about what our lawyer advised. That's fine. It's not going to have anything to do with anything we decide tonight because all of that is already there. We already have that information gathered to be able to do that. This is just simply a comment about our lawyer's advice, I think. If it's anything else, then we shouldn't be entertaining it because we got to follow that protocol, right? But it's certainly going to be the will of the committee. But at this point, I don't know that it hurts to have that in the record. But I think the committee we should just call the question and decide.
So, but to your point, you're going to limit his comments to a previous application. No. Well, that's what this is all about.
It's just about our lawyer's advice.
Which pertained to him talking about the other application and the consents, which is a done deal.
I
It's not, it wasn't germane, the question wasn't germane to this particular application. That wasn't the response that we asked for the lawyer to give us.
I actually understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree, and yet I actually want him to be able to say what he feels about this particular practice and how we go forward. For me, it has everything to do about how we go forward, rather than this particular application, but okay. I still think, call a question.
What's the question you're calling?
Whether or not it's allowed.
So you're going to move to, I won't put words in your mouth, I'll move it to you.
Member Demery said that, look, if we approved minutes at a meeting and a member of the public wanted to ask a question about it, a clarification, anything like that, we would allow that. In the spirit of transparency for that, we allowed to go into the record the solicitor's advice. I don't see it as being monumental to have the whole raison d'etre for this thing being delayed a month to not being able to get that comment. I think we can go back and forth on this. Like all things, I'd be happy to call the question for the advice of the committee. Otherwise, we could do this ad infinitum. And if the pleasure of the committee is to let the member of the public comment, then so be it. If it isn't, we'll move on. I'd like to call the question.
Very good. A seconder to that, Angie?
For how long?
2 minutes.
Seconded that? Yep. Any questions or comments? Dave, you're quiet over there.
I'm listening to everybody, and my problem is we asked our solicitor for advice to us. Not to anybody else, but to us. So it's up to us to determine what we do with that advice. Nobody else. And no offense to anybody. But the advice was directed to the Committee of Adjustment, not to the public, not to anybody else, but to us for clarification. We got the clarification. We either agree with the clarification from the lawyer or you don't. It's not up to the public to tell us what their opinion of the advice is because the public didn't ask for the advice. We did. So it is only for us to decide what we do with the advice from legal counsel. Not anybody else. A comment from anybody, you want to rebut what a lawyer gave us as advice. When we make a decision on an application, does anybody get to come and rebut and ask questions about the decision that we made? Right? No, our decision is final. The information that we got from our legal advice is up to us to decide what to do with. We don't need a comment from other people to help us agree or disagree with the legal advice. We asked, they answered, on we go. I don't know what difference having somebody else's opinion on our legal advice makes. Right? I don't understand where we're going with that. Do you agree with the legal advice that was provided to the committee? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
End of discussion. Right? That's my opinion. So, like,
Gary?
Yes, you can say it's the end of the discussion, but that doesn't necessarily make it so. That's why it's left to the discretion of the committee. But I would say this is that we channeled a member of the public's question. And I think they should be allowed to comment on that. We did get our answer. It is correct that it is our final decision to make. But I don't think we need to live in a world where we don't let the public comment on it. It's a limited 2 minutes I've asked for. It is to what's on the record, which we asked as a result of a member of the public's question. Why we're worried about what's said when we're not going to sort of we've said we're not going to carry this on. I think every member of the committee has accepted the lawyer's, solicitor's advice. So I'm not sure what the problem is in listening.
Thank you again, through you, Mr. Chair. Okay, firstly, I would never think it would be a bad thing to have someone comment on any activity that we're taking on. Anything that is said tonight, as far as the comment that might be made by the public about our lawyer's advice, is not going to impact anything we decide tonight. It won't have anything to do with it. It's a comment on our lawyer's advice, period, done. That's what it is. As far as do we accept our lawyer's advice, that's our lawyer who is a legal expert that we pay to give us advice. Why would we not accept that advice? It doesn't make sense not to. He's the expert, we're not. So that's where it goes on that one. I just don't think that we should miss an opportunity to have someone who actually did sort of charge the situation be able to have that final comment and say, this is what I feel about the lawyer's advice, or this is what I'm seeing about that lawyer's advice. And that's it. It's just read into the record. It's over. It makes no difference on what we decide tonight. It really does not, because it hasn't got to do with the rest of it. It has to do with that lawyer's piece of advice only. That's what we're asking for. I don't have a problem with that. If committee sees it differently, that's fine. But again, we'll call the question.
Okay, now you can call the question because we have a motion on the floor. So with that, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor of allowing the person of the public to speak for an additional 2 minutes? Raise your hand. Against? Opposed? So it's defeated. So,
That's democracy, sir.
fair. But on that point, if you go and open we have a protocol set in place. We have public comments for a reason. And we had the public comment period already. Ad nauseum.
I think the vote's been taken.
Fair. I'm just saying that we have a protocol and we should stick to the protocol. And that's when you run into... Well, no, we didn't. You made a motion to to change the protocol. That's all I'm getting at. So with that, I will leave it at that. I know the agent and the applicant is here this evening, and we always offer them final comments based on previous hearing, today's hearing. I will turn the floor to them if they have any final comments that they wish to make prior to us making a decision.
Hi, good evening, committee. Through the chair, my name is Dylan. I am the agent for the owner. With me is Leo DeFabio. He is the owner. And just want to emphasize that we agree with the planning recommendation report for the minimum lot area reduction of 16%. And I'll pass it to Leo for any additional comments.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to express that I'm deeply disappointed with the decisions that have been made here by the committee. I've probably have done 300 applications for severances and consent, and I thought this was probably the easiest one I've ever did. That requires a lot less variances than 4 other applications that just got approved. Counselors who sit on the Committee of Adjustments have to remove themselves as counselors and basically deal with what's in front of them. And what's in front of us right now is only one thing, a variance, a very simple variance. The property complies with frontage setbacks. These properties, I'm not sure if you guys understand what a lot of record is. Yes. Okay, so there's 2 lots of records here that do not merge. That permits on each lot of record multiple homes with setbacks of 6 meters, not 10 as we're requesting, with accessory dwelling units. Much worse and much more hampering than what we are applying for. So I sit there and think, is that what they want? More housing or less? And I'd like to finish. I'd like to finish, if possible.
What's the point of order?
Point of order is, I sit here, and so do my colleagues that are on councilors, not as council, but as Committee of Adjustment members. So, hear me out. So, at the end of the day, we are now discussing this variance. I and everybody else on this committee is open-minded. The last decision has been made. You're recanting what happened in the consent. The consent is over. I would just ask that you make your comments appropriate to what we're dealing here with tonight. Not whether we're counselors or not.
I never mentioned the word consent. I mentioned the word variance.
You're bringing up the past issues in this. So if you want to go forward, and I'll take the advice of the chair, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about tonight's matters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I never brought up the word consent, I brought up variances. So right now the property permits multiple units as it stands. 6 probably on 2 lots. So the homes have no restriction on size, and we're only asking for one thing, a variance in lot area, which is extremely minor in nature. It's not minor, it's extremely minor in nature, and a lot less minor than the other 4 applications we just heard. It's a rubber stamp. And the point I'm trying to get across is that, yeah, this is about the variance, and this is about development. But there is a social conscience that we have as well, and these costs that we incur for delays and for processes, the public pays for it drastically. And that's my kids who can't afford houses right now, that's everybody. And we delay this project by 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and that's $100,000 to the public's cost, not to our cost. Very simple variance, I think. Very minor in nature. And I think that I'm extremely frustrated, and I wanted you guys to know that. As a developer and as a business person, I've never, ever run into this in my life in 34 years, ever. And I think that the application should be mutually agreed upon. Thank you.
Thank you. I got it. So with that, any other questions or comments? Recommendation? You can do them individually or by block if you like, since they're basically all worded identically. Thank you, Dave.
Application A13-24-PC. That minor variance application A13-24-PC be granted for the following reasons. The application is minor in nature. It's appropriate for the development of the site. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. I'll do them in blocks so we can read them just get it done. Application A14-24-PC. The minor variance application A14-24-PC be granted for the following reasons. The application is minor in nature. It is appropriate for the development of the site. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Application A15-24-PC. The minor variance application A15-24-PC be granted for the following reasons. The application is minor in nature. It is appropriate for the development of the site. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan. Application A16-24-PC. The minor variance application A16-24-PC be granted for the following reasons. The application is minor in nature. It is appropriate for the development of the site. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. It is desirable and in compliance with the general intent and purpose of the official plan.
Thank you. Seconder to that, Angie. Questions or comments? All those in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. Moving to the committee adjustment hearing minutes from June 12th, 2024. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Angie. Seconder, Gary. All those in favor? Be carried. Is there any, I skipped over other business, it's on the other page for me. Is there any other business that anyone wishes to raise? With that said, I will consider our hearing adjourned.